In today's video, we're going to be covering the good and the bad from the First Descendants recent open beta test. But before we get into that, we're going to start with a basic overview of this game. There's going to be timestamps down below, so if you want to skip straight into the part where I give my final thoughts, feel free to do so. Let's go ahead and get into this one. The First Descendant is a looter shooter game similar to the likes of Warframe or Destiny. I'd say it's more like Warframe than it is Destiny, as there's several different Descendants and you're going to have to farm items and perform research in order to unlock them. And then on top of that, there's a module system in which you can use those to enhance the performance of your Descendants. When you first get into this game, you're going to be offered the choice between 3 different Descendants. The first one is going to be Viessa, and she's going to utilize ice abilities in order to bring down her enemies. The second one is going to be Lepic, and he's going to be your typical assault class who utilizes grenades. And your final Descendant is going to be Ajax, who utilizes shields in order to protect his allies from incoming damage. Once you've selected your Descendant, you'll officially begin the main story of this game. Now, I'm not going to cover the main story in depth as I don't want to create any spoilers for those of you who are interested in experiencing this firsthand, so instead we're just going to get into the gameplay loop. Starting off your first journey in the open world, you'll come across mission terminals in order to begin a mission. Once you start the mission, enemies will spawn in and you'll be tasked to kill those enemies and complete any other objectives that they have along the way. Once you've completed the objective, the mission will officially come to an end and you'll go to the next mission terminal in order to start the next mission. After you've completed a set amount of quests in a zone, you're going to be tasked to return to Albion, which is going to be the main hub of this game. In Albion, you're going to have to walk around and talk to a few people, and then you're going to be asked to return back to that zone in order to continue doing missions. And this is going to repeat for every single zone in the game until you've beaten all the missions. Other than the main story of this game, there was 2 other things they would allow us to do during the open beta. One was the Special Operations missions and the other one was the Void Intercept battles. We're going to go ahead and talk first about the Special Operation missions. Getting into Special Operations, there's going to be 2 per zone. You're going to have Resource Defense and Mine Blocking. Now, in order to do either one of these special operations, you must have completed the main story quest for that zone. So in other words, if you want to do the Resource Defense in Kingston, you must have completed all of the main story mission before you can queue up for this special operation. Now, Resource Defense is going to be where you defend a resource carrier from oncoming waves of enemies. After a set amount of waves, you're going to be offered the choice to abort and take your rewards or continue and go for greater rewards. However, your enemies will also increase in difficulty. The other option is going to be Mine Blocking, in which there's going to be several points of interest that you're going to have to contest, and once you've killed all the enemies off of those points, you're going to be offered the choice to abort and go ahead and take the rewards that you've been offered, or continue for greater rewards, but you'll also be facing more difficult enemies. Now that covers the special operations. Next, we need to talk about the Void Intercept battles. Now, this was the main in-game content that was provided during the open beta. The way these worked is you would queue to face a Colossi, which were the bosses, and once you were placed in with a party, you would begin. These encounters took place in a room that somewhat resembled a training simulation. Once you beat a Colossi, it would unlock the next one in the chain. There was a total of 8 Colossi at this time, with 3 being in normal mode and 5 being in hard mode. You must have completed all the ones in normal mode before it would unlock the hard mode. This was the part of the game that I actually had the most enjoyment out of during this beta, as each one provided a new challenge and you actually needed to learn mechanics in order to complete these. The only negative side was the queuing up. You never knew if you were going to have someone in your team who was completely lost or didn't have the damage, as there's no requirements to queue other than having beat the prior Colossi. That wraps it up for the overview portion of this video. Next, I'm going to be covering the good and the bad, which is going to be based on my own personal opinion from my experience in the game. We're going to begin this by starting off with what they did good, and the first thing on our list is going to be the visuals. The aesthetics of this game are astonishing, and each zone has its own theme that offers something new to be observed. There's also verticality, which offers the ability to use the grappling hook to explore new locations. You can really tell that they put a lot of time into creating each zone to create an immersive experience. Next up, we've got the movement, and this is one area I think they nailed the hammer on the head, as the changes to the grappling hook in this game make it feel phenomenal to zip around in. Changing direction mid-grapple helps you either avoid incoming damage or get set up to deal damage. This has been one of my favorite systems to play around with, and I like all the ways that you can use it. Then we've got the Void Boss design, and as I mentioned earlier, every boss is uniquely designed with their own set of skills and looks to them. From the Dead Bride, who has frost abilities and looks like a colossal reincarnated female corpse, to the Hangman, who looks like some alien mech species that comes down from the sky, each one looks amazing and creates a fun experience with their own unique mechanics. Next up, we got the customization, and the customization in this game is very in-depth for it being just a beta, as they already have 300 modules between the weapons and the Descendants. This gives a lot of opportunity to play around and figure out which ones work best for your playstyle and which ones deliver the most amount of DPS. I think this is going to be an area that a lot of people are going to spend their time trying to create the most optimized builds. Finally, we've got the gunplay. The guns in this game felt really good when using them, especially the ones with a quick fire rate to them. That's why for me personally, my go-to weapon was an SMG. On top of the way they perform, they also have such a great sound when firing, and my favorite part is when you're killing an enemy with a headshot and it creates a different sound and you get to watch the enemy explode into a pile of ash. There's nothing like hearing the popping sound as you remove the enemy from existence. That covers my list for the good. Now let's get into the bad, and we're going to start things off with the server stability. Unfortunately, this game suffered from disconnects and lag, and it seemed like this was especially noticeable in special operations where you're dealing with hordes of enemies. The freezes didn't stop you from dealing damage, however they did halt the enemies in place, almost as if you were in bullet time and you could go around shooting all of the enemies, and once it unfroze, they would instantly die. Finally, if you were fortunate enough, you could find yourself in an infinite wormhole waiting for a Void Boss. This makes for an excellent screensaver. Next on our list is going to be the story. Unfortunately, all the effort they took to rework the story didn't seem to pay off, as currently the characters you interact with felt void of life and just bodies there to deliver a message, but no real passion or sense of humor seemed to be found here. They might need to take a step back to the drawing board and hopefully come up with something a little better. Next on our list is the empty open world. Unfortunately, even though they created such a beautiful environment in this game, they left it completely empty of life or activities. This creates no real reason to go to these zones once you've completed the missions. It would be really nice to see them add some sort of random events that would spawn, and if completed, offer some sort of a reward along with placing enemies around the map for you to engage with, or even adding NPCs with maybe some sort of story or random activities that you could do for them. Next on the list is going to be interesting guns. They've added ultimate weapons to the game that have unique abilities to them, but the current roster is so small and they're kind of lackluster. Currently, it just feels like another shooter game when it comes to weapons, but they have no real defining traits. For example, when you're playing a Borderlands game, the weapons truly define what that game is and makes it stand out from all the others. It would be nice to see them add something like this to this game where the weapons feel unique and generally let people know that this is the game they're playing. Moving on, we've got the grappling hook. As much as I love the grappling hook, there's definitely room for improvement, as currently you get 2 uses and then it goes on cooldown. I would personally like to see this system not have a uses amount, as it's just a good time. Then there's the issue with grappling on the bosses, where sometimes it easily latches on and other times you're sitting under a void boss, shooting over and over again, waiting on it to finally connect as you slowly run out of health. Can we maybe just get some sort of a system where you can lock on, because sometimes this system just feels busted. Then there's the lack of content. As it currently stands, there's not much to do at the endgame, as it's just do special operations missions to farm items and currency, make modules better, kill void bosses, rinse and repeat. It was fun for a little while, but after 40 hours, I was starting to find myself pretty bored with this current cycle. The final thing I'm going to put on this list is going to be monetization. This is one of my big concerns, as there's a lot of different forms of currency in this game, and whenever you have this many, it should raise a red flag, as there's no need for a game to have so many types. I get that this is a free game, but do you really need so many currency options? Not to mention they provide shaper keys throughout the whole open beta, which are used to increase your chances of better rewards in void boss battles. I don't even understand why this item even needs to exist, but hey, it's here, and I just want you to be aware of it for when the game actually launches. Now, with all that being said, I do still fully intend to play this game upon launch, as I did still have an enjoyable experience. Now, things might not have been perfect, but there's still room for improvement, and this game was just a beta. So hopefully they'll take all the things that we've given them for feedback and they'll make those changes accordingly. They did that for the last beta where they took almost a year working on the things that we had informed them about. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up for this one. If you also participated in the recent open beta, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet subscribed, be sure to do so, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.